Hayward to the front court. He's 1 of 4 shooting. 6 points. Gordon drives hard to the rack. Booyah! Gordon Hayward. Stewart, thank you for all you did for the world of broadcasting. We'll miss you. Rest in peace.
This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
We'll break down the big trade that took place yesterday, the first of important trades in the NBA. Plus, we'll look at the Jazz loss last night to the Indiana Pacers. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip Off. Bom, 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 boom, pow. Your daily DeVar today. How awesome is this cup? Is that the coolest thing you've ever seen? Yes, I am loving this. Thank you very much. How totally cool is this? This was made for me by Devin Jones. I got to meet his cute daughter last night as well. So thank you very much to Devin. I dropped Quinn's off. He got it last night. I'll see him on the plane today, see what he thought. Hopefully he'll get a nice little chuckle and like that as well. So Devin, thank you very, very much. All right, I got to make sure I get the kids on time, so let's dig right into this and give you the NBA 5.
Hi, Jazz Nation. This is Derek Favors. Thanks for being the best fans in the NBA.
You're welcome, Derek. I guess I count a little bit when I was rooting you on to make free throws last night. All right, let's get into it right away. The big trade last night went down. It's an interesting trade. I think New York might have got the best of it because they didn't get any of the players involved. Let's go to the screen share right away. The numbers are small. I'll try to make them bigger for you. This is my system of how I evaluate trades. Kevin Pelton, I always kind of give credit for having a better one, but I would also say that, frankly, this one has worked pretty darn well over the years. To find the trade, if you missed it, Dion Waiters was traded by Cleveland, the 4th pick of the draft 3 years ago, traded by Cleveland, Oklahoma City. Cleveland ends up with Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith out of the deal, and then the Knicks end up with a bunch of space. Reggie Jackson was not moved. So if we want to look at this, and we'll talk about this, we've got to go to the bottom of the spreadsheet to start. Look, hey, here's Josh Smith. Oh, look, here's Lance Stevenson. And the reason I bring this up is because people want to fall in love with the fact that guys score points, but when you score points in an inefficient manner, when you're using 14 possessions like Lance Stevenson does, or 18 possessions like Josh Smith did along the way, and you are inefficient, you kill your team. Lance Stevenson and Josh Smith both average 0.71 points per possession. The league average is 0.94, so those guys are both 0.2 points below the league average, and between the two of them averaging using 15 possessions a game, you're hurting your team 3 points a game. 3 points a game below the league average comes out to about 9 wins a year. You're hurting your team. It kills you. There's some value to having a high possession player if you don't have anybody else on your team that can do that. But when you do have other players on your team that are high possession players, high possession usage players, then these players that you're looking at right here will murder your chances of winning. And without much work, look what we're going to go find here very quickly in this list of things as we work off the bottom players in the NBA. It's worth noting, Andrew, that look at this. Here are J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert, both using possessions at 0.83 points per possession, the two of them using 13 to 12 possessions a game. Their Locke offensive ranking is a minus 3.7. They're like the exact same player. It's so interesting. Everybody talks about J.R. Smith as this free-flowing, bombing player compared to Iman Shumpert. Well, look at this. J.R. Smith uses a possession every 2.3 minutes he's on the floor. Shumpert every 2.7 minutes he's on the floor, basically the same. Scoring opportunities per 40 minutes, Smith is a little bit higher than Shumpert. Points per field goal attempt, points per scoring attempt, points per possession, they're the exact same. And they're both terrible. This is not going to help Cleveland at all along the way. And the only way it might help Cleveland is if I went back down the list and found Dion Waiters the other side. But the fact is, despite all of Dion Waiters' troubles, and he has plenty of them, he's right here. And here's Dion Waiters. Wait, look at that. That's 0.82 points per possession. What was J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert? 0.82 points per possession. Cleveland hasn't changed anything. Iman Shumpert and J.R. Smith use possessions at the same inefficient level as Dion Waiters. The only thing they did is messed up the cookie jar, which is not going to have as poisonous a volume as that of Dion Waiters. And Dion Waiters shoots 2.1 possession every 2.1 minutes. I don't have that capability of moving that to 60 here. Let's just make this a little easier. They'll all line up right next to each other for me, which is very convenient and nice of them. Whatever that is, you need to mute your mic. Okay. So here are our guys. Ignore Samuel Dallenbert and Matt Dellavedova. They just showed up. But here are our guys. Dion Waiters, according to Locke offensive rating, is actually worse. Why? Because he's using 13 possessions in 24 minutes a game, where these guys aren't using the possessions as much. But in their basic usage, they're all the exact same, 0.82 points per possession. Waiters doesn't turn it over quite as much as these other guys. His points per field goal attempt is better. Points per scoring opportunity is worse along the way, but they're all terrible. Which begs the question, what does Oklahoma City possibly want out of Dion Waiters? He's awful. Minus 9.5 Locke offensive rating. 0 is league average. Again, if we were just to clear, here's a list of what we did is we just shuffled the deck of the worst offensive players in the NBA last night. Here are the worst offensive players in the NBA that are playing at least 15 minutes a night. Willie Green, Jeremiah Grant, Josh Smith, P.J. Harrison, Lance Thomas, he got traded yesterday, Michael Carter-Williams, Lance Stevenson, Chris Jones, Elfrid Payton, Vince Carter, Nerlens Noel, Rodney Hood, Papa Nicolau, Rajon Rondo, Ramon Sessions, Trey Burke, Quincy Pondexter, Anthony Bennett, Ricky Rubio, Dion Waiters. Dion Waiters. Move up just a little bit. Next group. There they are. J.R. Smith. Iman Shumpert. Cleveland can't have gotten worse because they traded Dion Waiters, who's awful. New York got better because they got rid of these terrible 24 possessions a night. And Carmelo Anthony, when he's playing, is such a high usage player that then you can distribute all the other possessions. And Oklahoma City, I have no idea what you're doing. By the way, if you don't buy that system entirely, Josh Smith gets cut. Detroit is 6-0 the minute they start distributing those possessions. Everyone can talk about chemistry. They want to do chemistry. No. You took one of the truly most inefficient players in the NBA, who's using like 18 of your 90 possessions a night, and killing you and moving them around to guys who use them better. You're going to start winning games. You get Lance Stevenson off the floor. Everyone wants to talk. They're only bad chemistry because they're terrible players. Because they're terrible offensive players. That's why they're bad chemistry. Sure, they're mercurial and they're all these other things, but the reality is they're using possessions. Other players, they're using them terrible. And that's the problem. By the way, while I have this sheet up, I should at least let you see, just for your own interest level before we delve into the Jazz last night. Let me re-screen share with you. Who are the best offensive players in the NBA season so far this year? Kevin Durant in the limited games he's played is unbelievably on fire. Kevin Martin's only played 9 games. Brandon right now with Boston with his 70% shooting. Steph Curry, no surprise. Tyler Zeller having a bang-out year. Here's the guys you'd expect to see. Anthony Davis, James Harden, Kyle Korver, Jody Meeks is on fire. He's the one using Josh Smith's possessions. So they've gone from one of the best to one of the worst. J.J. Redick, Tyson Chandler, Maurice Spates. What you're seeing is a bunch of big guys who dunk a lot. Has a lot of value. It's where Rudy Gobert can be very effective. DeMarcus Cousins, LeBron James, Damian Lillard, unbelievable. Jimmy Butler, Wesley Matthews has been brilliant this year. Klay Thompson. This list, by the way, has really changed this year. And what's interesting about the league average, the cringe and grin should be at about 0, and the Locke offensive rating should be at about 10. So we're not, and it'll get there. League average of everything, effective field goal percentage is usually 0.50, 0.501. It's a little bit off. And our true shooting percentage is actually right about where things have been over the years. It's actually a little down. Last year was 0.541 along the way. It's 0.538, and that usually happens as the season goes on. But what's interesting is for the first time, players like Kyle Korver and J.J. Redick and Jody Meeks are being listed as some of the best offensive players in the NBA. And what's happened is they're taking 6 and 7 threes. They're taking, Kyle Korver's taking 54% of his shots as threes. J.J. Redick's taking 45.9% of his shots as threes. George Hill and Damian Lillard are taking 33%. Wesley Matthews, 50% of his shots are threes. This has increased their value tremendously and changed how these players should be looked at. They're much better and more valuable. They're not just specialists. They're game-changing offensive players. That is your NBA 5.
This is Ian Clark, and you are Locked On Jazz.
Jazz lost last night, but a fabulous effort. Great fight. Super night. Another great night at Energy Solutions Arena. We unfortunately will not be back again until the Warriors come into town on Tuesday, January 13th. That should be a really fun one. The few thoughts last night. Hey, early on, I thought the guys who were starting for the first time looked like or playing for the first time just looked like they were overwhelmed by the moment. And not to their fault at all. I'm not sure I'm bothered by that, frankly, in any way, shape, or form. But I do think that that's kind of the reality of where they were, and then the guys fought and battled really hard. Something interesting is going on with Gordon Hayward. The numbers don't entirely back it up. There's a kind of a little bit of a kind of thing out there that he's coasting through early parts of the game, and that then having his impact later, and we'd all like him to have more impact of the game. And I brought up an empty the noggin. I mean, I feel like last night I wanted more out of him, and yet then what did I want? 30 and 10? Because he finished at 24 and 7. And one of the things there's two things I think are going on. The entire defensive game plan by the other team is there to stop Gordon, and he probably is playing the first 8 minutes of this game trying to figure out how he's going to attack that defense. Now, the idea, though, that he's quieter in the first quarter is somewhat true in the sense that his points per 36 minutes is lowest in the first quarter, but he's shooting 44% in the quarter and 46% from 3. He's definitely shooting better in the third quarter. When he comes out, having seen what they're doing defensively, learned how to react to it, he is playing better. He is a higher scorer in the second half of games than he is in the first half. He's actually having more assists. So statistically it does show that he's more impactful, but it's not as though he's bad in the first quarter. He's just quieter. And he's averaging 19 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. So does it really matter where he distributes it? And when he does it, I feel a little bit as what's going on is maybe as simple as just that he's evolving throughout the game, trying to figure out what the other team is doing to him defensively, and then once he figures that out, then he's figuring out how to attack it. But right now, without Alec Burks, and particularly last night without Trey Burke, the floor is completely sided to his overwhelmingly toward his side of the floor, and it's almost impossible for him to get looks early in games. Teams have really just decided he's not going to beat them. Pretty good effort by Gordon and Derek last night. When everybody else is injured, you're missing 3 of your 5 starters. You're missing 4 of your top 7, 8 rotation players. To have those 2 guys step forward and put up the big numbers they did and keep the team in the game last night was really rather impressive along the way. The Elijah Millsap made his debut. Seemed nice. You got to understand something. Not that I want to, destroy the NBA prospects of another player, but when you've been in the D League for 4 or 5 years, there's a reason why. Okay, it means there's some aspect of your skill set that didn't get you drafted, didn't get you on NBA rosters, and that didn't have you signed. That's not really a hit, by the way. There are 240 players in this league, and they're the best in the world. They're unbelievable. So you're the 242nd player in the NBA. Oh, okay. Tough. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you're the 242nd best player in the world. Oh, okay. Actually, there's 450 players in the league. My number's off. I don't know where I got 240. But so you're 452. I didn't know where I got it. Well, dyslexia never kills, just confuses. So anyway, the Millsap, if he's going to come in, he's not going to come in and suddenly be the best player on the floor. That's an impossibility. He's not going to come in and suddenly score 20 points a game. That's an impossibility. But he showed a lot of energy. He was shot out of a cannon, and he impacted the game with rebounds and assists and created. It was great. That's what you can ask for out of a D-League player playing in the NBA, trying to make himself into an NBA player. That's terrific. That was a really good game for him. And if he does that, he's got a chance to get another 10-day contract, and he's got a chance. So that's terrific to see that take place because, frankly, we're so short we need it, but it also is good to see out there. Dante last night, he wasn't very good. Okay, so what? We really just have to just cash in that he's 19 years old. A year ago, he's playing Australian high school kids and let him have his experience. But he didn't have a single assist. He didn't create a single play. He went to the basket once. He hit a few threes after being dreadful. He was being badly exposed in the first half. We don't have to worry about him, but we can at least be honest about what we're seeing in the process. And unfortunately, Ian Clark didn't play the point very well. He got picked, and the Jazz actually kind of basically let Joe Ingles and Gordon Hayward initiate the entire offense. Worth keeping an eye on, by the way, the burden on Gordon Hayward right now. His minutes have to be up with where this team is playing. I mean, who this team has. He went to 42 minutes last night. But his numbers have been up all season long. If you run the numbers, which I'm doing as we speak, on speed and distance, I believe Gordon is in the top guys in the NBA in distance traveled this year and was top 10 last year. He's the 4th most amount of miles run this year. Kemba Walker, Jimmy Butler, Damian Lillard, and Gordon Hayward. Worth, at some point, I think G wears down here. And when he does, it's going to be ugly because we are completely dependent on him. But this is where the Alec Burks injury is just going to show itself and rear its ugly head throughout the year and be a very difficult one for us to deal with because it just leaves us paper thin. And we've seen it, Trey and Ennis. I mean, this is ridiculous. But I thought the effort was terrific last night. So I think that all of that is good. And Joe Ingles showed a lot of skills. Got a new nickname from me last night, Slow-Mo Joe. And that's kind of what he does. Everything's in slow motion. Launches the three. It's none of it's being done quickly, but it's all being done effectively. He's a nice player. He's got to make some shots to maintain his spot in this league. But he is rebounding his assists, and those things were very, very good last night. I liked last night's effort. I like everything that's going on with this team right now. This team is where beyond or where I think you could have hoped it would be. Statistically, if you look at things, you're looking at where we are. We're 23rd in the league, I think, in advanced metrics ranking now, which is up from 29th. Okay, I don't think with this young a team you could have asked for a great deal more. Actually, Detroit jumped us, so we're down to 24. Miami's at 22. Sacramento's at 21. Indiana's at 20, and Denver's at 19. 18. We could maybe climb these charts a little bit, but we're ahead of who we should be. Charlotte and Orlando and the Lakers and the Knicks and Minnesota. And, there's not a lot of teams up above us that I think when the year started, did you say to yourself that the Jazz were going to be better than those teams. So it's all good. Have a great day. That is tip-off today. We'll talk to you from Chicago tomorrow.